start again. It's a rich
What's going on, everybody? It's the Bull Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to be discussing 5 potential things that will make the Chicago Bulls a successful team heading into next season. Now, at the end of the day, you may have heard some of these things come from me before. Some of these things might be new to you guys if I haven't discussed them already. But just to kind of add all of the things I've talked about, kind of talk about it in one video, and hoping that with all these 5 things potentially being able to be accomplished, we can see a much more improved Chicago Bulls team heading into a very important season that is next season. We kept the core the same. We've got a lot of our young guys still here. Not many big moves made by the Chicago Bulls. And if that's going to be successful, I think we're going to have to see some of these things really play a factor into allowing us to make, or at least have, a successful year next year. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bull Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about whether or not you agree with my 5 things that I think personally needs to happen for the Chicago Bulls to take the next step. Now, of course, there might be some that you agree with, some that you don't agree with. So feel free to let me know in the comments below about every single one if you decide you want to do that. So we're going to start off with number 5. And if you haven't noticed this already, I've been making a lot of videos about these type of instances of our young players, and our number 5 will be our young players taking a big step next year. I'm not sure how much of a step they're going to have to make or how much of a step they will actually make, but I think it's very important to note that we've got a lot of young guys on this team. A lot of them will have probably significant minutes on this team as well. So the question really is, can we see, in my opinion, an upgrade from those young guys? Can they take the next level? We're talking about the Ayo Dosunmus, who looks absolutely ripped. We're talking about the Patrick Williams that's been participating in tournament after tournament. We've been talking about Kobe White that's been praised by development coaches on his ability to never give up on something. We're talking about Dalen Terry that recently dropped 56 points in a Pro-Am game. These are the guys that we're looking at to take the next level, to take the next step. And in my opinion, if they're going to be able to do that, then this team is once again going to be very difficult to beat, because we know what the core brings. We know Zach LaVine, the type of player that he is, and we know what he brings. We know DeMar DeRozan, the type of player that he is, and we know what he brings. We know what Vucevic is. We know the type of player that Vucevic is, and we know what he brings. But the young guys have so much room to improve, so have so much growth in their ability and their talent, and just their overall, I guess, way to play the game, that could be, in my opinion, one of the most important aspects into us having a successful season. These young guys are very, very important. And no, the pressure's not all on them. Obviously, we need the core guys to deliver as well. But them taking the next level, in my opinion, could make us a really hard team to stop. So let's wait and see what the outcome will be. Who's going to take those right steps? Who's going to be disappointing out of those young guys? And will all those young guys be here by the time the trade deadline occurs? All those situations we just don't know of at the moment. Number 4 is going to be bench production. This kind of goes outside of those young guys that I mentioned as well. We know Ayo will most likely be on the bench. We know that Kobe White will be on the bench as well. So those 2 guys excluding, because I've just talked about them. But guys like Derrick Jones Jr., for example, what's he going to bring to the table that he didn't bring last year? Is he going to improve his 3-point shooting even further beyond last season? Is he going to make, I guess, more contributions on the defensive end? Is he going to reduce his fouls and stuff like that? Then you obviously got new signings that are going to be bench players as well, like Andre Drummond. How's he going to make an impact on this Chicago Bulls team? Can he finally get most of the Bulls fans on his side to be able to produce a really good physical type of center that will give you a lot offensively and defensively? Goran Dragic, how is he going to play a factor into this game? How is he going to play a factor into this team? How is Goran Dragic going to be able to make an impact with a lot of the minutes that he's going to get? Guaranteed minutes, apparently, as well. How is he going to make an impact on the Chicago Bulls team? The bench production, in my opinion, was, I wouldn't necessarily say one of the worst, but towards the end of the season, it was one of the worst. And we know the reasons why that was the case, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But the bench, in my opinion, is going to play a huge part, because at the end of the day, we can't rely on isolation. We can't rely on hero ball from DeMar and Zach to really win our games. Our bench is going to have to step up, and some of our stars will have to step up as well. But that bench reduction from Alex Caruso all the way down to Andre Drummond, Tony Bradley even, Marco, whoever plays, I think we're going to have to see a lot more of these guys step up if we're going to take the next step in terms of our Chicago Bulls season. Number 3, in my opinion, is going to be health. Very, very simple here. Health is always going to be a big part of everybody's season. To be honest, this could potentially even be the number 1, but I'm talking about it at number 3 because I feel like it's a very simple solution. If we get healthy players, we're going to get a better team. If Lonzo Ball stays healthy, this team will become better. If Zach LaVine remains healthy, this team will be better. If Alex Caruso stays healthy, this team will be better, etc., etc. It goes with every single player on this team. I don't think you can ask for 82 games out of every single one of these guys. Just not going to happen. A lot of guys take load management. A lot of guys need breaks in between, and there are some minor injuries that we have to deal with. But major injuries, in my opinion, and of course those protocols that we probably won't see this season, we saw last season, we're not going to see that again. But major injuries was the big factor for the Chicago Bulls, unfortunately. A lot of injuries happened to Alex Caruso that year that took him off the floor for a lot of the season. Lonzo Ball missed more than half the season. Zach LaVine was fighting and battling through a lot of injuries. Some of them were relatively major as well. All these things play a massive factor, and unfortunately our best players just weren't able to stay healthy for a long period of time. If they're going to be able to be healthy by the time the playoff comes, you should expect the best out of those guys, because they're going to have to stand up and deliver for this Chicago Bulls team, and health will be a very, very big factor. We need to see a healthy team, and I think the Bulls need to do a better job and maybe potentially load managing some of these guys if that's what it's going to take to see them ready by the playoffs. Only time will tell. It looks like we will see a healthy team come the start of the regular season, but we saw even Patrick Williams out for most of the year as well. It all comes down to the end of the season and how we can actually get all these guys ready for the NBA playoffs. It's a long, long season, 82 games. How are we going to make an impact in every single one of those games, and how are we going to keep these guys healthy through that period? We'll wait and see. Number 2, coaching adjustments. This is a very straightforward one. I strongly felt last season the reason why we became very predictable towards the end of the season was obviously consistency issues, stagnation issues, but the lack of adjustments that the Chicago Bulls made. This is one that everybody has been talking about as well. Billy Donovan needs to find more solutions to kind of fix some of the errors of our ways that we saw last year. Billy Donovan admitted this himself, so this is not a new concept that I'm suddenly bringing to your attention. Billy Donovan knows, in my opinion, he has to do a better job. He's spoken openly about trying to find answers to our issues, and maybe free agency signings will be the key to help fix some of those issues. But nevertheless, Billy Donovan has to do a better job this season. I don't think he was particularly great last year. I don't think he was bad as people made out to be, but he definitely wasn't as good as I thought he would be from last season. We had a great start. Obviously, he's always been good at finding new teams and getting new teams' chemistry together straight away. He's always been good at that, and I'll always give him the praise for that. But when the going gets tough, I felt like we stuck with the same old style. We didn't really change anything up. An example of this, I know it didn't end up working or coming into fruition, but Tristan Thompson and Nikola Vucevic, we only really saw a couple of games, maybe 1 or 2 games with them playing together as a defensive unit, offensive unit, as a partnership, let's say. And I felt like if it was going to work, we needed to see it a lot more. If it failed, at least we saw that experiment work or not work. But unfortunately, I don't feel like those types of experiments ended up happening. Sometimes even the rotation of the lineup just wasn't really up to par as well. All these things play a big factor. And I'm sure many people would say Billy Donovan's going to need to have a big year next year. I feel like a lot of people have already lost faith in Billy Donovan. I personally have not. I know the type of coach that we've brought in, and he's been one of the best coaches we've had in recent history. We've got to be honest. We haven't had great luck with coaches. We haven't had Fred Hoiberg wasn't very successful. Even guys like Jim Boylan was nowhere near being successful. So our last best coach, well, it was probably Tom Thibodeau. So we've got a real upgrade here, and I want to keep that faith that he could still be the coach that we need. But time will tell as well. We'll wait and see how he can end up, I guess, playing his part, and making this team as strong as it can be. Last but not least, it's team basketball, ladies and gentlemen. Look, I think we can all say that we've got a very good, talented team, but sometimes the team didn't always necessarily play together. There were a couple of times where we relied too much on individual plays, too much on individual talent, too much on hero ball and isolation plays. I've always been a guy that advocates isolation in small doses. There is a place for isolation in this game. Some of the best players in the NBA use isolation to their advantage because they're so talented that players simply can't guard it. But it shouldn't be a vocal point in my opinion. Team basketball has always seemed to win championships, has always seemed to win a lot of games. You don't see a lot of pure isolation teams. Like, again, I always mention the Houston Rockets. You never see pure isolation teams end up winning championships that often. It's always about team movement. It's always about getting everybody involved and participating in the game. Another example I could give of this is Nikola Vucevic. Every single time he got involved on the offensive end, all of a sudden, he's a much better defensive player as well. The reason why is he feels involved. He feels, I guess, intact with the game. He feels a part of the game. If you exclude certain players on the offensive end, they're going to feel it on the defensive end as well. It's just how team basketball is. You get everybody involved, they're going to be involved on both sides of the floor. No matter how good or bad you are on defense, you will feel involved and you'll play your part. So this is a very, very easy one here. We have talented players. DeMar's a talented player. Zach's a talented player. Vucevic is a talented player. And sometimes isolation works. Sometimes just throwing it in the post and letting him go to work from there. I'm talking about Vucevic, even DeMar DeRozan in this instance. It works. And it will work very well for the Chicago Bulls next year as well. The isolation plays that we do make or that we do decide to use, it will work because we've got talented guys that can do that. But if you got a team system around those isolation plays as well, then in my opinion, we're going to be a very hard team to stop. If we have diversity in how we score, sometimes it's going to be in transition, sometimes it's running off-ball plays, or sometimes it's pure isolation. A lot of difficult things for teams to guard, and we have versatility in that way as well. I think this is the biggest next step that the Bulls have to take, and I'm hoping that we're going to see everything here really be a vocal point for the Chicago Bulls from number 1 to number 5. But number 1 is a big thing in my opinion. I do think we need to play a little bit more team ball. We've seen from a couple of games that we really focused on good transition play, fast ball movement. We've seen this team really at its dangerous, at the most dangerous it can be. So I'm looking forward to seeing if we can deliver on a successful season like that. And hopefully it will be with more team ball movement and not necessarily all isolation. That's all today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. I might make a video talking about 5 things I wouldn't want to see on the Chicago Bulls. At the end of the day, with the positive side of things that we all want to look at, you do have to look at some of the negative side of things as well. So if you want that video to be out at any given time, feel free to let me know in the comments below as well. Have a wonderful and safe day. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.